All right, everybody, and welcome to the 9 Years podcast, which for the second week from the last three, if I've got that correct, is unscripted and even less scripted than the last one, if that is possible. A couple of weeks ago, as you know, didn't get a chance to prepare in advance. Life is so hectic and so busy right now, and I've ended up in the same situation again this week, as has Stu, so we're just going to try and talk for 45 minutes, whilst at the same time, listeners, as I try and put the game together, whose nine is it anyway, because I haven't even had a chance to prepare that yet. So I'm going to be doing that whilst we record, which is going to be great fun, which means that whilst I, Nick Draper, research the game, my co-host, the face of the BBC Sport website, Mr. Stuart Deakins, is going to talk for a long time to help me out. Stu, which topic should I give you to talk about this week? There's not been a lot happening in the world of AFC Wimbledon this week. It's been Slim Pickings, which is not a restaurant in Tulsa, Oklahoma. It has been a slow news week for all fans of Wimbledon's football club. Nothing of note, of importance has happened. Just a couple of draws, some iffy performances. I can't think of anything else. So it's going to be a long stretch. Stu, why don't you talk to listeners about the US presidential race instead?
I was going to say, we could go across the pond, couldn't we, and talk about the presidential race, which is hilarious. To be fair, it makes the Rick Parry and Clark and all the FA people morale. It just makes it look like small things, isn't it? Really, it's just, yeah, it's funny, isn't it? You know, one of the biggest powerhouses in the world, and yeah, you had Donald Trump ahead of it, and it's funny, but it ain't funny if that makes any real sense. But then 2020 has been an absolute nightmare of a year, so. Should we be surprised of anything that happens in 2020?
If you think 2020 has been bad, listeners, you just wait for the next few years. We are in for, and excuse the language, if you're younger listeners, might want to hide your ears for a moment. Hide your ears, cover your ears for a minute. The next few years are going to be absolute shit shows as the downfall of Western civilization continues. But let's not talk about that now.
I'm sure the kids have heard worse. To be fair, Nick, I'm sure the kids have heard worse than a shit show.
Yes, I've said Watford numerous times. I can't think of much worse than that, to be honest with you. As much as we'd love to talk about US presidential elections and all the ills of the world right now, and I'm sure you'd want to listen to that, listeners, let's talk about football instead. And the first fixture... the first home fixture, I should say, for Wimbledon's Football Club, played in Wimbledon for 29 years, occurred on Tuesday evening, Tuesday the 3rd of November. Ended up being a 2-2 draw with Doncaster Rovers, splendidly wearing a Kingstonian tribute kit, which made me smile a little bit. In some form of irony there. I'm not sure quite how it works, but... Stu, the game itself wasn't important. I know people are unhappy because we conceded an injury time equaliser. We let two leads slip, and we've made that a real habit this season of letting leads go. But for me, well, overall, actually, a point against Doncaster is pretty good. But for me, it really didn't matter what happened in terms of the result or the performance on the evening. It was all about the fact that, yes, football is being played in Wimbledon once again. League One, professional level 3 football being played. I can't feel overriding emotion is the fact it's an empty stadium. And until that stadium is full, I don't think we've officially opened Plough Lane.
Yeah, I think it's one of the weirdest ground openings you've ever seen. And I think if this was a normal season, everyone would look and go, how the hell are you opening up a ground with literally a building site behind the scenes? And that's basically what it is. You know, people that I know at the game basically commented saying that it's an absolute building site behind, and that's natural because we're obviously behind on that, and the hospitality areas are not done. Not that they need to be done, because let's be fair, we can't get any crowds in probably most of the season. I think that's probably the likelihood of it all. But yeah, it was a bit sweet. I watched the coverage, the Back to Plough Lane live coverage, which was excellent on Tuesday, and you built. It was really weird. So the historical stuff that was put together was brilliant. Some stuff there that I hadn't seen or pictures. So you sort of built the game up, and then unfortunately the team come out to an empty stadium, and it's really sad, isn't it? In terms of when the goals were scored, Joe Piggott scored the goals, and it was a personal highlight for him. But it wasn't. It's so hard for those players to really get up for the game. Do you know what I mean? Like, first game at the stadium, if it was a full house, that place would have been absolutely rocking. And it just wasn't. It was good and bad at the same time. You're right. It's an empty stadium, but the good job is it's an empty stadium, Wimbledon. So when fans are ready to go in, we have a ready-made stadium waiting for us.
Listeners, you might hear some fireworks going off in the background, as it is. We are recording on the 5th of November, which we must remember. And I think tonight, with all the other things going on in the country right now, fireworks are going to be more than your usual. But Stu, fireworks may be lacking on the pitch. You've mentioned Joe Piggott. Yes, mixed feelings about being the first player to score a goal at Plough Lane, at the new stadium on Plough Lane. I hesitate to call it New Plough Lane, even though I just did. He also scored away at Milton Keynes on the Saturday. So at least he got the experience there of playing in front of no fans, although he's done that many times before at that stadium. He loved his knee slide celebration, though. I find it interesting watching footballers' celebrations when there's no fans in the stadium, because I sort of in my head thought they'd score a goal and then they'd just be like, just trot back to the centre circle like the good old days. But no, they still go for it. Corner flag routines, Piggott sliding into the corner. Is it just become instinct, become habit, I suppose, for these footballers?
I think so, but it still is empty. If you look at the players' faces and everything like that, it's still empty. If you know what I mean. Like I went to a few games at QPR, and I went to the Plymouth 4 game, and the celebrations are muted. It's really weird. If you saw it on TV and you see them celebrating, you'd think it looked normalish. But when you're at the ground and there's nothing there and generated sound, it's just the most free. And good luck to players for still being able to, to celebrate that way. But yeah, I think Joe Piggott obviously knew the importance of that goal. And to be fair to him, I think the funny thing is we actually forget how decent that goal was. He rounds the goalkeeper, but if you look at it, I saw someone put it and measured it up against Bergkamp's goal against Leicester many, many years ago. If you remember when he took the couple of touches, I get why some people have looked at that, because it comes over his head and he manages to kill the ball dead and then go round. So I think he probably does that for the goal, because I think obviously because we conceded the lead so quickly against them, I think in a way we've forgotten how good that goal was. So I think that's where a knee slide is. But then I still laugh. I've been watching a lot of old football on YouTube when crowds were allowed. I think just try to get some normality. And I don't know if you recall when Ribéry scored a goal and he'd done a knee slide, and his knees got Ribéry, when his knees got stuck in the turf, went flying over. That made me laugh. They sometimes can go wrong.
It wasn't just Ribéry as well. There was somebody else in the Premier League, didn't they? They went for the slide and it just literally got their knee dug in the turf and ended up trilling over. Was it Robbie Keane? Robbie Keane probably did that back in his day, maybe.
Possibly. Like, and you can injure yourself. You can injure yourself.
Yeah, it's dangerous. It's not like WWE.
So you just got to make sure the pitch is slick, wet, and you got a chance.
Nothing I like more than something that's wet that I've got a chance with. Moving swiftly on. Back to Tuesday night and the 2-2 draw with Doncaster. As we said, Plough Lane. The shout out this week was going to be, you've already mentioned the Back to Plough Lane. The Back to Plough Lane live crew who did 2 hours pre-game, as you said, with all the graphics, really well produced videos all through the evening leading up to kickoff, and then post-match as well. But kickoff, then players come out, big thank you banner that they stand behind, thanking everyone that made it possible because of all the hoops we've had to jump through over the years, as we discussed last week. Wondering if this stadium was cursed, wondering if the reintroduction of lockdown was going to mean that football was going to be cancelled and it still wouldn't go ahead. We had to pass some form of safety inspection on Monday, I think, Monday or the Friday before.
It was a Friday before, I believe, yeah.
Yeah, Friday before, which we were a bit nervous about, but got through that all right, and we ended up getting the game ahead and getting some people into the stadium to be able to be there, a lucky few. But as you said, Stu, you've been to games at QPR this season, and it's you're happy to be there and happy to be out on a Saturday afternoon or a Tuesday night watching football as you would normally, but no fans there. Totally different experience, not the same at all. And I'm now very concerned that this season is written off for that. We've just been pushed back and pushed back and pushed back. In my role, we've had complete changes to our timetable to accommodate COVID regulations. And they were introduced towards the end of the summer under the proviso after the October half term, we expect that we'll be able to go back to normal. No, that's off. We're now expecting that to last all year. Same with fans in stadiums. We thought maybe November time. I earmarked Wigan at home on the 14th. I thought there's a chance it might happen. I've given up all hope of that now. I don't think we're going to be in stadiums this season at all. And there's still question marks over whether the season will even reach its conclusion.
Yeah, and I've said it, and I've said it before about the games being very difficult to attend, and it's not been to camouflage the fact that I've been fortunate enough to go to games. It's just simply that's what I've seen. I know quite a few people that went to the game on Tuesday, and their emotions were very similar to mine in terms of it's just not the same without fans, and it sometimes needs you to go to a game to experience it, to understand it. I don't think any of us really like watching games on TV. But trust me, being at a ground or being anywhere at a football game, watching Wimbledon when you're normally surrounded by your friends and families and stuff like that, you're not. And you're also in bubbles. You can't really go anywhere. And it tends to make the experience not enjoyable. I know a few people that went, like I say, and they were like, yeah, it needs fans. It's just not, it's great. The stadium is great, but it's sold us at the moment because it needs the fans in there. As for the season, yeah, you're right. Joe Palmer got interviewed on the back to Plough Lane post-match, and Chris Phillips asked him a question. When do you envisage fans being allowed in? And he was honest, and it was quite a shocking answer, but a truthful answer. When he said, "We don't really know, but it's looking probably we might be back in by Easter," and that's Easter. I've only just finished. I've just finished my chocolate from Easter this Easter, but we've only just really had Easter. It feels that way. We've not even had Christmas yet. So, yeah, I think we are. But I suppose in the back of my mind, if it meant we didn't go back this season and we could start next season whenever that is, and we could all go, I'd probably take that. I'd probably sacrifice that because there is a concern that, if we do open up to 20%, 30%, how the hell do we pick them? That sort of side of it. So it's difficult. But, we just got into lockdown. We ain't going back this season. It's as obvious night becomes day.
I shouldn't say what's really depressing about this because there are far more depressing things going on in the country right now, and we have to put some perspective of this. But personally, yes, hey, if Easter was to happen, great, get some games in at the end of the season. But for me, watching football and going to football is all about winter. It's a winter thing for me. There is nothing better than travelling to a game in the cold, especially around this time of year. It gets dark early, the floodlights are on. That's all the atmosphere. That's the atmosphere we want for football. There's a little bit of a bite in the air, biting wind maybe, got a little bit of needle in there and everything like that. Football in the summer is never the same. It's a winter sport for me, and that's not going to happen at all. The last games we had, I think we had other ones, but the last away game I went to was Rotherham, a February time, and that was beautiful, Stu. Oh, my word. It was hammering it down with rain all day, pitch black, walking back, getting the train to Sheffield in the freezing cold rain. And, that's what football is for me. Because then when you get home at the end of it, you feel like you've achieve something by going through and putting through the hardship and going to support your team in the horrible conditions, and getting a last minute injury time equaliser as well helps. But yeah, none of that. You're right. We'll be back in the summer and it'll be a bit boring. People are just hot. They can't be bothered. It's just a bit meh. The opening day of the season is always great. I love the opening day of the season despite that. The opening day of the season is made for that sort of weather. The hot sun, everyone's excited, real kind of atmosphere. But like the third and fourth games, they're just a bit weird, aren't they? They're just a bit like the initial enthusiasm. Yeah. And now you're just don't know.
I think the first game is, you're right, it's normally always sunny, isn't it? Hot. The grass has been cut, the grass is green. There's no divots in the pitch if we remember back to Kings Meadow, years and years ago. And also the sun makes the kit look even more spectacular, doesn't it? There's always a new kit. It's that new thing, isn't it? I get what you mean. But then I suppose you could argue the point that when we are allowed to go into Plough Lane as fans together, everything is going to be new, isn't it? So I suppose you've got that sort of side of it. The league table's just crazy at the moment. Trying to look at anyone's form when people are missing games because of COVID. We've already got people like Oxford, Crewe, Swindon, Accrington now, all behind on games. I think if we're honest, if clubs were run properly, we probably wouldn't have football going on at the moment. Because the only reason we are all playing is because actually the football deal means that we can't, because we could end up paying that money back. And money in a Premiership is important, and they won't drip it down to the English Football League. But the only reason we're playing is to try and keep some money in the game. In my opinion, it shouldn't be played at the moment. It really shouldn't. We've got a month lockdown, potentially. That might be longer. We still want to play football amongst it. We seem to think our players are all immune to COVID. It's just who knows when the season's going to start next season? We just don't know. There's so much uncertainty that football. Hey, look, we love the game, but it's very, very difficult to enjoy it in this situation. But the great news is we are back at Plough Lane. I don't know, for all the things that the things that are disappointing. I don't know about you, but it was great to see a game in the new stadium. I did get confused, though, Nick. I did think the pitch was bigger. And the reason for that is because the camera's so much higher now, isn't it? We've got a stand that's actually like proper size.
Proper size. I do want to pick up on that point, actually, but I will just have to go back for a second. You mentioned that Oxford, Crewe and Swindon, and nothing more in life represents lower league football and also the drudgery of life in England than those three towns: Oxford, Crewe and Swindon. Just got
and
images. And Accrington, yeah, true, yeah, exactly, yeah. I mean, that is lower league drudge for you. But I've gone into footballer mode. The stadium, to see it on TV, you're right, the pitch will look bigger because of the angle. For me, this is a conversation I've had with many people down the years when they've gone to a game at Kings Meadow and then they've watched a game afterwards on TV and they've gone, why is the pitch so much bigger than ours? I'm like, they're really not. I was like, that pitch is actually probably smaller than ours. It's just because of the angle, your perspective on it. But yes, it would be nice. God love Kings Meadow. But yes, do you not remember in the very early days in the CCL Kings Meadow, the camera just used to be at the back step of the main stand?
Yes.
So it was underneath the roof until we got the gantry put in. And I don't think gantry probably only got put in probably for the time of the Wickham game, and it probably stayed after that. I could be wrong, but that seems to ring a bell to me. But it was, as you say, great to have a better perspective on camera of a home fixture, but also just the little things like seeing the blue and yellow seats in the background as a backdrop, and all those little touches that make it feel like it's actually our home and that we actually have our own stadium, which I've never had. Well, I know Kings Meadow was ours. It wasn't ours. And this is actually all ours. It's all blue and yellow in the middle of Wimbledon. And as Glyn loves pointing out in every interview he does, this isn't a soulless, out-of-town new development surrounded by big multinational brands. Not that he mentioned any, but I'll tell you, IKEA and Asda, that we know exactly who he was referring to. Yeah. And it is great. It was a heartwarming thing. Like you say, we just need some fans in the stadium, not cardboard cutout ones, which unfortunately were positioned in the away end. Although that's a movable end, isn't it? The away section can be, if I've got that right, so that is the away stand, but that could be the away stand where Sunderland are there, but not when Accrington are there.
Yeah, I think from where I see, so it looks like the scoreboard now is going in the east. Let me just think, sorry, the southeast part. No. I was getting confused. What's the home end? The home is the south end, isn't it? That's right.
No, I want 5 minutes of this. Compass directions with Stuart Deacon.
So the northeast corner is where the scoreboard is going to be. And that looks to me where potentially you could have the the split of the away fans and the home fans, but you can then bring it round. So you're right. When Accrington potentially bring one block of seats worth of fans, then we can push it round and have more fans in there. Yeah, you're right. And the floodlights, you're going to laugh. I know that's what I'm going to say. It sounds funny, but the floodlights are so bright. Like,
well, I genuinely, of all the things that went through my head there with what's coming next, floodlights were bright was not one of them.
No, let me explain what I mean by that. It's like King Meadow had floodlights, but it never fell.
This is getting better with every passing sentence.
It's just like, it feels like a proper stadium. So you've got the floodlights on the stand. So rather than you've only got 2 floodlight pylons, and you've got the flood, but it just again, it's stupid. It illuminates the place, but also it illuminates the backdrop of the flats that are not done yet. See, what I mean by that is that when everything is done, it's like at the moment you're playing a game, you're cheating everyone. You're playing a game, it's not ready. The ground is not ready. The surrounding is not ready. But when it is, it's going to look spectacular. But yeah, that's my. But there's so many things that are not in. So the scoreboard's not in. The advertising around the ground, like we had very just basically banners, didn't we? Along the.
I was going to ask about this. I didn't want to interrupt what sounded like a phone call into North Norfolk Digital at 3 a.m. But yes, I was going to mention the banners around the advertising hoardings, like I referenced earlier, were not hoardings, and I couldn't quite figure out what was keeping them up, so to speak. And it did just seem printed, not canvas, but like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like,
it's like
plastic
tarpaulin,
sort of tarpaulin. Thank you. Yes.
Because at the moment, all that's around there is railings. So basically, it's like Sandhurst.
I was going to say it's like going back to the CCL.
Yeah. So maybe that's the idea. It's some sort of like throwback to Sandhurst. Do you know what I mean? We're going to keep that CCL stuff in there. But to be fair, loads of sponsors have been announced before the game.
I did see this.
We still don't have one for the South Stand yet, do we? The home end. But we look like we've got quite a few sponsors for the new season.
Yes. But also, the stadium will still always be called Plough Lane, as far as I understand. I don't think a stadium sponsor was announced as part of that. No,
it wasn't. Long
may that continue. I like just being Plough Lane, nothing else. And I don't even know where we are. I don't know what Barrow's ground is called. How bad is that? I've forgotten what their ground is called. But I think they've got a sponsor now, so it is completely. Should I Google that one?
What team? Sorry,
Barrow.
Yeah, I did see it. Can't remember it off the top of my head.
This is the problem with. Do you know what the worst thing happened? The worst thing in the world to ever happened, and I'm not over exaggerating this at all, is they made it 2 up, 2 down between the Football League and the Conference, which has now got to the point now where the Football League has completely changed, with lots of clubs which I don't know where their stadiums are. I liked it back in the 90s when there was one change a season, and it never ever happened because the team coming up's ground was never ever good enough. So you didn't have any of this nonsense. It just remained the same, and I could learn all the grounds of all the clubs. So I'm going to find out Barrow's ground.
So selfish. Do you know what I was going to say, by the way, when you were talking about...
sorry. Holker Street. I did know that. I did know that. Anyway, sorry. Carry on.
And to be fair, Barrow's only got one street. It's literally like the smallest place I've ever been to. What was I going to say? You talk
I've
about
been in some smaller places.
When you're talking about sponsors, got me actually thinking of a story in the newspaper this morning about betting companies in association with shirt sponsors.
Yeah.
I tell you one thing that was shocking. In the Championship, half the teams, so 12 out of 24, have a shirt sponsor, which is a betting company. And 3 of them have the same kit sponsor.
This is like Bet365 or whoever.
I think is it Red, is it?
Oh, yeah, that weird.
There's a few.
32 Red or whatever it is.
Yeah. There's only 8 in the Premier League. Because, of course, I suppose in the Premier League, they're going to attract the real big players, can't they? But, Rick Parry's basically talking about the betting and, want to try and get shirt sponsors not to be betting companies. And he was, along the lines of, he was saying that we just can't afford to because that's the industry. But it was shocking when you actually saw how many teams had them. And no uniqueness as well. So when you were talking about clubs and only one change per year, now everyone's kit seems to be the same. Because I used to I used to enjoy the different sponsors. So, like, with Everton was Hitachi and Crown Paints, Liverpool, if you remember that. That's obviously well before your time.
Well before my time, Stu. I have no idea what Crown Paints even are.
But for us, we had LBC, didn't we? Going back many, many years ago on the kit. What I mean by that is, one, I don't personally want betting companies to be sponsors on kits. I'll be honest with you, because I think the industry is it's even worse now, isn't it? Potentially, people with mental health problems and stuff like that. But also, it just shows no uniqueness. And that comes from me saying that we've had football managers since day dot.
Yes, there's something to be said for longevity and tradition, but by the same token, when, as you say, the lack of solo identity and unique identities is sad, and it is a problem. And it's the same. We've been saying it for years with stadiums. The identikit stadium issue, where I could have been in, like I say, I was at Rotherham, I could have been at Doncaster for all I know. They all look the same or very similar. I get your point about Premier League having more options, but actually 12 out of 24 in the Championship?
Yeah, so half.
So half. And then the Premier League, 8 out of 20 is only just short of half.
True, they've got less teams, haven't they? Yeah.
They have fewer teams, yes. Sorry. I'm back. You can tell I've been teaching back in the classroom this week.
We could be here all day, couldn't we?
We could be.
But what I was going to say very, very quickly on the sponsor side of it is interesting, actually. So at Kings Meadow, we had the stands sponsored, didn't we? But we had their logos on the stands.
Yeah.
If you notice, Rye Group now, as they're called, rather than Rye Gas, because I'm obviously they're in many different avenues at the moment, but they haven't got anything on the stands in terms of, so we haven't got the luminous orange placards on there. So it looks like we're not going to do that. So which is quite, for me, that's quite good actually, because it just means it looks like a stadium rather than having so many different brandings around the place on that side of it. So, but I'm still keen to see what we're going to do. In my head, I have this Bournemouth vision. So when we were sold the idea about semi-permanent stands, we were told based on the basis of what Bournemouth have. So I really want the pictures on the ends. Like I want to make it look like the Bournemouth. The Bournemouth looks amazing like that, doesn't it?
It does, but Bournemouth, are they not slightly different in the fact that ours
They're not round.
Actually, ours is a bowl, and they've actually got 4 separate stands. Is that right?
I believe
it's
so.
like Fulham, yeah.
But we still have ends. So where the ends are, we should have pictures. We could have greatest moments in our history.
Is this just your... Oh, you see, I didn't even have to... I was going to make the joke, but you beat me to it. There's Stu. Should we just call it the Lyle Taylor Stadium, Stu? Would that make you happy?
No, I'm just saying that, if you think about one of the greatest moments, I think someone said, what's the top 3 moments in Wimbledon, or picture-wise, Lyle Taylor scoring at home to them.
Oh, yeah.
Is an iconic picture. That should be up there. I don't know what else I'm trying to think what else picture-wise we could have up there. Barrow maybe against Liverpool.
See, I'm not sure about that one. I think you'd have to have. That's a good question. Definitely have. Clearly, Dave Best lifting the FA Cup. Clearly, that is one. Or if you didn't want to have the actual raising of the cup, even though I think you've got to have the trophy in there somewhere. But if you didn't want to, then that great shot of behind the goal at Wembley as Bruce Grobbelaar is watching on as the ball goes in, I think that would be a great one. Yeah. I think Lyle against Milton Keynes with the pyro going off in the background has to be. Yes, I do agree with you on that one.
Maybe the goal against Oxford with the banner in the background.
Oh, against Charlton, sorry. Yes. No, it was Charlton, yes. Maybe. I think we might be giving that particular individual too much credit, maybe, as much as I'd like to see that one.
Oh, that was the fun. I think we all looked and went, if things are meant to happen, then that just proved it.
Yes, that just timed 100% perfectly. I think we were more celebrating the fact it was a very late equaliser, got lost in the shuffle. I think we were just happy a goal was scored and we'd see the banner on TV in front of it. But maybe in terms of pictures, the third one could be Amateur Cup.
Yeah, and it was good, obviously, on Tuesday night when they come out and they've done that picture behind the little boarding thing that they had when we had thank you, welcome home, and we had both badges. That was a really nice touch. on that, wasn't it? So, but yeah, so Tuesday night, 2-2 draw. 2-2 draw. Who'd have thought we couldn't hold on to a lead twice?
Can't hold two leads. Is that as opposed to holding a lead twice? I don't know. I suppose holding a lead twice.
Yeah, it just happened twice.
Yeah, but it happened against Milton Keynes, it happened against Burton, happened against Plymouth, happened against Accrington. It happens time and time again. It's a huge source of frustration for Glyn. You can see that in his interviews post-match. And is it just what? I don't know. Is there something we're doing wrong? It doesn't look like something we're switching off or anything like that. I don't know if it's a habit. Maybe it's just the way these games have gone. I think the Burton one seems to be one where we slipped, like we might have been caught dozing or whatever, having just scored. Milton Keynes, don't know, didn't follow the game at all, didn't watch it or anything like that. Tuesday night, was it not just a case of we played a good team that probably deserved a point and they just got their goals when they got their goals? Do we read too much into it?
Yeah, and I think that's the problem, isn't it? I think because it's happening quite a lot at the moment, I think we're literally going, well, we can't hold on to leads with some sort of psychological, problem. But I think you're right. I think you hit it now on the head. Doncaster are just a good team. And if you actually look at the goals they scored, whilst they had loads of possession and were, I think they were a better team. Let's be honest. I can't say that we were played better than them, but the goals were fortunate on both of them. On one of them, he tried to play it across, it come back, and he got a free shot on goal, and the second one it is deflected and loops over Conal Trueman. I think I want to look at. I'm going to look at the positive side. I think there's a massive positive that we're scoring goals. We are scoring goals. That's I'd rather have a problem with us scoring goals and maybe conceding equalisers than, last season and the season before that. We just couldn't score goals for love of money. We couldn't hit 2 goals in a game. We obviously have a striker that's on form in Joe Piggott. 6 goals now. 6 goals, 4 assists. His season's only 11 games old. And he is on fire, isn't he, at the moment? And the great news is that Ollie Palmer come on, and in a cameo appearances, you can see glimpses of what he can bring to the team when he fully gets up to speed.
I think a lot of people are excited to see Piggott and Palmer linking up top. I think we've been saying it all season. When we get the opportunity to play the pair of them, it's harsh on Ryan Longman. I think it's Palmer and one other, even though, as you say, you can't drop Joe Piggott at the moment because of the form he's on with assists and with goals. But it did seem to make a change. Aside from the obvious, it did seem to shift the balance a little bit on Tuesday night when we were struggling for long periods in the second half, and he came on, got us back into the game a little bit. You're right with the 2 goals we conceded. And isn't it a similar same old story where we keep saying, despite Doncaster's possession, not really getting in behind, we were defensively quite solid, we just didn't have the ball, and goals just came from individual errors. It's just always the case, Groundhog Day all over again. We don't begrudge them the point, as you say, and we'd have taken it beforehand.
Yeah. And the problem is, I think anyone watching that game were concerned. We felt that there was a late goal coming. And I think that's just because, unfortunately, as football fans, we've seen it. And football and players are no different. Players are no different. Sometimes they drop a little bit, or they don't get a challenge in, or they don't want to make that mistake. So players are just like we are as fans. You get a bit apprehensive. In time, we do need to turn one of these leads into a win. I know we've done that against Blackpool, but we haven't won enough home games where we've had the control of the game. But I think we need to. The positive side of it is the good thing is we had something on the bench on Tuesday that could change the game. So we went to a different formation, which meant we could lick in. I think when Rudy come on, obviously Ollie Palmer come on, and Che Alexander got his chance. Shane McLaughlin is just in the wars at the moment. He's definitely being targeted as a key player, which is a compliment to how he's played this season. But the changes made it a big difference. Rudy, I thought, was very good when he come on, but he looked better up top when he had Palmer around him, because simply Palmer made the ball stick. He gave that physical presence. He gave none of their centre-halves any easy balls out. And I don't want to I think we've got to be careful not to build up Ollie Palmer too much, but you can definitely see there's elements of his game that are really, really going to help us this season.
Leading the team out, what did you make of his performance?
Yeah, it was just, again, I think it was just meant to be, wasn't it? Obviously Luke O'Neill, unfortunately, got that injury earlier on, and in a way, it was just, it was meant to be Will to be captain on the first game at Plough Lane. I thought he'd done okay. I thought Doncaster were very difficult to play against. Good movement, good ball possession. I thought Terrell Thomas done really well alongside Will. For me, Terrell was one of the pick of the players of the game. Obviously, I know Joe Piggott would get man of the match, rightly so, but Terrell Thomas wasn't far behind him. Thought he was very good, and I thought Conor Truman was very good as well. It's difficult, isn't it? The pairing of the three is going to be so challenging this season. So the three we had on Tuesday was Paul Cannon-Bayer, Will Nightingale, and Terrell Thomas, and they're what you call proper defenders. Luke O'Neill is more of a right back, moved into a right centre half. But I thought he looked all right. Doncaster are a good team, and on the whole, we managed to defend well. So I think we need to not be too disheartened about it at all. I think Doncaster have beaten Ipswich 4-1 this season. Ipswich are not conceding many goals, so they've got that. They're capable of doing that, and Darren Moore's got a really good team there.
I said the shout out for this week was going to go to the Back to Plough Lane Live team. Called out is going to Virgin Media once again. And we're not going to get cancelled from Apple Podcasts or Google or YouTube for naming a brand. We might do when we insult that brand for being the absolute that they are. Thank you, Virgin Media, once again. The call out this week is actually going to go to a random one, but on Twitter. And this is random, listeners. It's got nothing to do with Wimbledon whatsoever. I'm going to go off a tangent here just very quickly. But on Twitter, Stu, I noticed that Sky Sports are now doing a sort of play of the week award thing where they in-depth describe a great play. It was all Liverpool scored against, West Ham maybe. And they pause the video at certain points along the way and give us absolutely useless statistics that are of no interest to anyone, but we're meant to care about them. I'm going to read things like how fast the shot going, what angle the pass was, all this nonsense, like what star sign the left back was if the ball had been played at a different angle, like whatever, all this nonsense. I was just like, and this just led me back to my point last week from that great article in the Times where it said, if you try and make everything important, nothing really is. And it's just the saturation, just overdoing it of this coverage is driving me insane. Let me go back to the days, like you said, of watching old highlights of old games on YouTube. I came across a 4-3 win at Leicester back in 95, maybe? I think 95. And I think we scored an injury time winner. John Goodman scored a couple, or even Lynn Hardson scored. And on match day back in the day, it would have been, there's your 2 minutes highlights and off we go. And everyone was quite fine with that. We don't need all this saturation.
Yeah, and do you know what? You know me, I love my tactical, I like looking at tactics, and I really enjoy watching Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher on the Monday Night Football. But I think that is, for me, you know what you're going to get on a Monday Night Football. You know it's that tactical analysis and a breakdown. So you know before you start watching it what you're going to get. And they had the old Tottenham manager, Pochettino, on there on Monday night. So I love all that. But I agree with you. I think then we're taking it too far. Expected goals and final third entries, and it's just too much. It's too much, and you're spoiling the game. And I love my tactics, but I don't really want to know about expected goals. But I do like when you can analyse what defenders switched off and not come round. I like that sort of side of it because that's part of learning the game. But all these new statistics are just pathetic. Expected goals. Crikey, are they not seeing Carl Liebern? Carl Liebern could have 5 expected goal chances and wouldn't score them. It's just a little bit, it's saturation. But equally, there are teams in the game. And Neil Ardley, we spoke to Neil Ardley on our Sunday night at 9 Years Live, and he was saying about his directors love stats, and that's great for Neil Ardley because whoever is a stat man, isn't he, Neil? So I suppose in the game it's there, but I think for football fans we don't need to see it. And you're right, I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it stopped every 5 seconds. Just enjoy the game.
Just enjoy the game. And we will do when we talk about Carl Liebern, because we'll remember his 2-headed goals at Selhurst Park against Crystal Palace. We'll also remember something we don't see a lot these days. Remember he scored a winner away at Southampton that season at the Dell. I think it was it Paul Jones, the goalkeeper at the time? came off his line to make a clearance outside his box, slipped, fell on his backside, and left Carl Liban with an open goal.
I remember that.
And I just
he tried to miss it as well.
But goalkeepers don't. Well, yeah, it's Carl Liban, let's be fair. But we don't see it these days. Where are the goalkeeper, like awful goalkeeping errors like that? Now it's, De Gea should have had a stronger wrist at that point. No, I want to see him kamikaze style running out to the halfway line and getting nutmegged or something like that. We're trying to head a ball and just completely missing it or falling over. Or what was it, Taibbi against Southampton trying to a ball rolling straight to him and it going through. Divots on the pitch, like you mentioned earlier. Tim Flowers, it just bounced over his shoulder. Oh, they made football fun. We're sucking the life out of everything these days.
Yeah, it is a little bit, isn't it? It's a bit too... I think the goalkeepers now, you don't necessarily see the errors by the saves. You tend to see the errors with the ball at their feet when they try and, It's like now, every Premiership team now, their goalkeeper has to be the person who starts the attack. And, there's many errors. It seems to me now, there's so many errors now with goalkeepers passing balls in stupid positions rather than just launching it. And the errors are not so much, like you say, the Taibbi and the Tim Flowers, and if we go back to was it Rayner who was in goal when was it Sunderland where the ball hit the massive beach ball?
Oh, the beach ball, or the Enkelman where he let it roll under his foot.
In the Midlands derby, like if you're going to do something like that, do not do it in a derby, isn't it? But yeah, the game. Unfortunately, the game has changed. You're right. The pitches are so good now. We were going back and watching old games, and I think I said this all week when my first away game was Shrewsbury away, and it was basically sand. It was sand. It wasn't pitch. It was sand. But it's such a leveller. We're going to go to Barrow on Saturday. Their pitch isn't going to be rubbish. Like the old days, it's going to be a decent surface because every team wants to play on a decent surface nowadays, don't they? But yeah, football has changed. It has changed, and but we need to remember what we fell in love with. The game we fell in love with was basically just enjoying what's on the pitch and not all the stuff off it.
100%. You mentioned Barrow. They are in the league below us. We travel there in the FA Cup first round on Saturday. We're running late, but sounding great. But you will do more on Plough Lane Live on Saturday in the build-up to the game. For now, Stu, do you have a quick prediction? I want two questions. One, prediction?
Yeah, it'll be, I think it'll go to extra time because they tend to draw a lot of games at home. I think it'll go extra time. I think we'll win. Hey, look, I'm going to chuck it here. We're going to win on penalties.
Second question, will Ollie Palmer get 90 minutes?
No, I don't think he'll chuck him in for 90 minutes. I think he's doing a very typical pre-season, increase your minutes sort of side of it. So I reckon he'll probably get half an hour and we'll build up to that half an hour, a full half and stuff like that.
Very good. Right, to finish off then this week, listeners, whose nine is it anyway? I have managed to cobble it together whilst we have been, in quotes, on air. And this week, Stu, the number is the number 6.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. So 93-94, the first season of squad numbers.
93-94, I think. See, John Scales the other night was saying he was number 10, which then makes me really worry because he was a number 10. I think that Dean Blackmore was...
He'd do a better job in number 10.
Do you know what? Was Ben Thatcher always number 3, or did he even... I swear one season Ben Thatcher was 6, but was he even there then? Chris Perry.
Okay, 99-2000.
He was centre half that year. Not that they were any good. Adam Reeves, I think, would have been too late. It was a centre half back then. I'm trying to think now who conceded the goals. Adam Reeves, I don't think he was even there at the time.
And finally, 2016-2017.
Who would have been that year? Was Pim Backelstein there that year? Or was it Paul Robinson? Darius, Paul Robinson.
Paul Robinson. Well, I'll give you 1.5 this week.
Okay, that's not bad. It's getting better.
Only because you mentioned a player's name, but not in the right year, but you did say his name. So Paul Robinson, 2016-17, yes, correct, 100%.
Hey!
99-2000 was Ben Thatcher.
See, I remember. See, this is what I mean. I remember he did wear a number 6 shirt, and
He did.
The reason I remember that is because he was a left back.
Yes, it
And
didn't
that
quite
didn't happen.
make sense. No, not back in those days. 93-94, this player would later come back to play for us as a striker in our non-league days.
As a striker in the non-league days? What,
Yeah.
Jason Newell?
No, might not be the same person, but has the same name.
You've lost me.
I'll tell you his first name and you'll go straight away. Scott.
Who played for us?
He played for us in 93-94, and then he played for us in non-league as a striker. However, they might not be the same exact person, but they have the exact same name.
Fitzgerald?
There we go. Scott Fitzgerald.
Ah, cool. Yeah, confused me even more then.
Yeah, sorry. I like to mix up again.
Yeah, of course it would have been that. Yeah, it's just, you threw me with also, say, John Scales was saying he plays the number 10, and you just think, why the hell did Ben Thatcher get number 6?
That's a good question.
Is that maybe because he was a marksman? He was, the referees knew his number was number 3 because he kept getting booked, and he thought he might be able to escape by getting a new number.
Ben Thatcher would have been a great bad guy, or what they call in the business heel in WWE. People would hate him. He just randomly attack people for no reason, like Pedro Mendes or Nicky Summerby. Although that was a great photo. Sunderland.
Do you know what? He was a brilliant left back.
He was.
He was an excellent left back. When we had him and Kenny Cunningham, I would argue we had the 2 best fullbacks in the league at some point. So, but Ben, unfortunately, he couldn't stop fouling people, could he?
No. You would literally just you'd call him Thatcher and put him in a WWE ring. He'd be great. And I do remember also Paul Kitson was once got that treatment, but he got sent off for that one. Never mind. Right. Thank you very much, Stu. There was something I was going to add to that, but I've completely forgotten. And it was going to be great. Oh, no, that's right. The reason I chose number 6 this week was because before we were recording, I was looking at Netflix adding some great 90s American teenage kind of sitcoms coming in November. It got me thinking about some of the old days and the olden days and Blossom. Do you remember Blossom?
Rings a bell, yeah.
Yeah, there's a TV show Blossom with some great catchy theme tune. And when I was young, because Blossom was 91 to about 95, so I was sort of -1 to -4 at the time. And I just remember being a big fan of her friend Six. So that's why we went for 6. It's not a reference to Sean Waltman of D-Generation X, and that's enough wrestling talk for
my wife is nodding her head away. Can I say very quickly about watching, obviously not on Netflix, this is on Prime that we're watching at the moment. So we're watching Criminal Minds at the moment, which started in 2005. So
my God.
It's 15 seasons, and we thought we'd watch it because we quite like the really long season to really get into it for over a couple of months. But 2005, you forget the technology that was around at that time. Like the computers are basically like massive computers. Mobile phones haven't got to Apple iPhones yet. I watch it more in amazement at the technology that was around in 2005 than I do for the storyline. It's just weird. It was only 15 years ago, but it might as well have been centuries ago.
A lot has changed in 15 years, and not for the better in many respects. But let's not get me ranting like old man yells at cloud again. Let's wrap it up for this week. Stu, thank you very much for joining me for this rather pieced together show.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. We will be back next Friday, and updates from Barrow will be on Twitter at 9Wires Podcast, and Back to Playing Live will be broadcasting live from Holker Street. See, I know the stadium name now, on Saturday about 2:00. So look out for that on the club's official Facebook. And that's it. Thank you for listening. I will sign off now, as I usually do, with Alexa Bliss. Bag first, milk last. 2 + 2 = 4. That's particularly relevant at this very moment in time in history. And we will speak to you again next week.